Hi, everybody. My name is James Morgan. Welcome to Life and Text, where we explore the beauty and intrigue of living narratives. It may seem strange to speak of tyranny and tyrants in the 21st century. Unfortunately, the year 2022 is displaying a good number of tyrants, and the damage is tragically manifest. For this reason, I'd like to dedicate this video to one of my students from Ukraine and to her family. Concerning the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Latvia, Krišjānis Kariņš, said this, quote, "This is the new usual, so to speak. We have an aggressive neighbor who is interested in recreating an empire who believes in the right to subjugate others and has a disregard for national self-determination. This is a threat to all of us," unquote. When I heard this statement, it sounded like something I had read in a speech in one of the ancient histories or tragedies. As a form of rule, tyranny is ancient and very well documented in various types of literature. In this video, we'll look at some ancient texts that help us to understand why it was attractive to some and why it was opposed by many. Let's first look at the words in Greek. Tyranny comes from the word tyrannis, and tyrant from tyrannos. The main verb is tyranneo. This word group seems to have been borrowed from peoples in Asia Minor, for example, the Lydians or the Hittites. Tyranny expresses the idea of absolute power or sovereignty. It is not always used in a negative sense by the Greeks. For example, some of the gods are described as tyrants in that they were absolute lords or kings. This idea was extended to people who exercised sole rule, that is, monarchs. Some people were called tyrants when they seized political power in many Greek states in the 7th and 6th centuries BC. With time, the words tyranny and tyrants were increasingly used in a negative sense to describe fraudulent rulers or despots, as we will see in the quote from Herodotus below. Plato and Aristotle considered tyranny to be the worst form of government, as a corrupt and self-serving monarchy. Some examples of tyrants who became military dictators were Gelon and Hieron of Syracuse and Theron of Acragas at the beginning of the 5th century, and Dionysius I and Dionysius II of Syracuse in the late 5th and 4th centuries BCE. Herodotus, the 5th century historian, relates a debate about governance by a group of Persian leaders. They are discussing various forms of rule to determine which type of governance would work best in their context: monarchy, oligarchy, and democracy. Herodotus records that Otanes is the first to speak, and he argues for democracy, ruled by the demos, the people. He rejects monarchy categorically because of bad experiences with evil tyrants. He doesn't use the word tyranny, but his description highlights the worst of what can go wrong under self-serving leadership. It's worth reading the entire passage. Quote, "After the tumult quieted down and 5 days passed, the rebels against the Magi held a council on the whole state of affairs, at which sentiments were uttered, which to some Greeks seem incredible. But there is no doubt that they were spoken. Otanes was for turning the government over to the Persian people. It seems to me, he said, that there can no longer be a single sovereign over us, for that is not pleasant or good. You saw the insolence of Cambyses, how far it went, and you had your share of the insolence of the Magus. How can monarchy be a fit thing when the ruler can do what he wants with impunity? Give this power to the best man on earth, and it would stir him to unaccustomed thoughts. Insolence is created him by the good things to hand, while from birth envy is rooted in man. Acquiring the two, he possesses complete evil. For being satiated, he does many reckless things, some from insolence, some from envy. And yet, an absolute ruler ought to be free of envy, having all good things. But he becomes the opposite of this towards his citizens. He envies the best who thrive and live, and is pleased by the worst of his fellows. And he is the best confidant of slander. Of all men, he is the most inconsistent. For if you admire him modestly, he is angry that you do not give him excessive attention. But if one gives him excessive attention, he is angry because one is a flatterer. But I have yet worse to say of him than that. He upsets the ancestral ways and rapes women and kills indiscriminately. But the rule of the multitude has in the first place the loveliest name of all, equality, and does in the second place none of the things that a monarch does. It determines offices by lot and holds power accountable and conducts all deliberating publicly. Therefore, I give my opinion that we make an end of monarchy and exalt the multitude, for all things are possible for the majority. Unquote. Interestingly, Otanes does not win the argument, and the Persians return to monarchy, ruled by a king. You can hear more about this topic in my video on democracy. As in Otanes' speech above, ancient authors often highlight various vices of tyrants: arrogance, selfishness, cruelty, and obstinacy. That is, an unwilling attitude to follow wise counsel. Arrogance, for example, is said to produce tyrants. Hybris phyteoi tyrannon. And obstinacy is tragically illustrated by the bad example of Creon, ruler of Thebes, in Sophocles' play Antigone. After refusing various wise counselors and facing dreadful tragedy, Creon admits at the end of the play that he did not listen to wise counsel. In Plato's Republic, tyranny is presented as the worst disorder of a state. And Aristotle describes tyranny as the perverted side of monarchy, which employs scheming methods to maintain power. Because people fear living under tyrants and desire freedom and liberation, it is perhaps not strange to find several words in Greek which describe the act of killing of tyrants. For example, tyrannoktonia. One poet uses the expression demophagos tyrannos, a tyrant devourer of the people. In fact, tyrants killing people and people killing tyrants run throughout the historical record. Would it not be beneficial to everyone to participate in a system of government that is shared and that has checks and balances? You may want to explore this theme further, so I've provided some sources below about tyranny and tyrants. If you think this video might be of interest to others, please like and share it. Thanks for listening. Stay safe and see you next time on Life and Text.